Good afternoon, Sandile Ndlovu. Today marks 100 days to the actual event, the Africa Aerospace and Defence show. So, briefly, tell us what is this all about and what is to be expected.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity. So, as you are correctly stating, today marks the beginning of the 100-day countdown. The Africa Aerospace and Defence show is a exhibition that takes place over 3 trade days, and there are 2 days for the air show that take place on the weekend, which are open days on a Saturday and a Sunday. So typically what we then do over the 3 trade days is that we create a platform for buyers and sellers of security and defense equipment from across the globe to converge on these 3 days here in Pretoria and interact and have discussions around issues of security and all the ideas that can be shared between governments of various countries on how to better protect themselves and their citizens.
So let us look at the key highlights and attractions that visitors to this show or to this event are likely to experience on the day, or on the day that they'll choose to come on.
To attend. Yeah, so for trade visitors, let's start with trade visitors. There are quite a number of highlights that people can expect, but for trade visitors who would come from a Wednesday to a Friday, over the 3 days we have a convergence of over 300 local and international exhibitors of various equipment who are exhibiting during the show. So a trade visitor could then interact with these manufacturers of defense and security equipment. So that's the first highlight that they could get. But for exhibitors themselves, we have international visitors from across Africa and from across the globe. So if you are a exhibitor or a manufacturer of defense and security equipment, this is the only place in September where you can be, where you can interact with various chiefs of defense forces from around the continent and around the world. And of course, we also have capability demonstrations that run throughout the 3 days where you can see some of the products in action.
We understand the event is one of the global defense events, and let's look at the AAD. How does the AAD engage with local communities? And when we're talking about local communities, let's take this to South African communities. How do you engage with local communities, particularly also the promotion of the event? And I understand, as it was mentioned also during the presentations in there, the inclusion or the addition of 3,000 more students from the 9,000 in the past. So how do you also look around that?
Okay, so this is a South African show that is made primarily to showcase what South Africa has to offer. And the biggest mistake we could make is to leave South Africans behind when we stage the show. So there are a number of activities that are earmarked especially for South Africans. But one of the biggest ones that we do is the one that we've mentioned. We've got a youth development project that is particularly launched during AAD. In the last installment in 2022, as you are correctly saying, we had 9,000 youth that came through from the Wednesday until the Saturday. This time around, we are increasing that number to 12,000 so that we can then interact with youth from various backgrounds. And the identification and the selection of this youth is done from across the country. So all 9 provinces, the Department of Basic Education from all these 9 provinces identify schools that will be brought to Pretoria so that they could experience the technology that is on display during AAD. So that is the critical element of the show, is that we need to get our youth interested in technology, and bringing them from across the country to Pretoria is one way in which we can get them to be interested.
And I know something like around 3 million has been mentioned. That is the budget around actually bringing in these students or youth. How does that impact on your budget on this event?
So we normally then request industry to sponsor the participation of these youth. So historically, we've had industry sponsors, and we do not think it will be different this time around. But in cases where there is a shortfall in those funds, the organizers have funded the shortfall. So the financial aspect of it, it's a collaboration between private industry and the organizers, if it comes to be. But there is also contributions that are made by the South African government through the South African National Defence Force, which is contributions in kind. When these youths come, the ushers that are going to be showing them around, those are normally individuals in uniform, and of course those are paid for by our government. And sometimes even the transportation of these youth from the airport to the show and from where they are sleeping is done using transport that is provided by the SANDF when they are able to do that. So the youth project is a true collaboration between the public sector and the private sector.
So I want us to look at the relevance of the exhibition. How does AAD make sure that the exhibition remains relevant and, of utmost importance to the aerospace and defense community?
So
globally,
so exactly. So as I indicated, we have striven to ensure over the years that at AAD we invite the majority of invited delegates are from Africa. That's the first thing. And as you can understand, Africa is a focus continent for suppliers globally. So if suppliers globally are made aware of the fact that there will be a convergence of African defense security aspects in the aspects in AAD, they then become very interested in participating. So that's the first part. But secondly, we have also ensured that we include a conference element to AAD, so that not only do people get to witness and see the products that are being manufactured, but we also get to talk about issues of security broadly, so that solutions around security challenges in Africa could be found by Africans themselves, and we don't get to import solutions from West or the East. We develop our own. And we've seen that whenever we do that, there is then an increased interest on AAD from the global West, the global South, and the global East.
So I want us to look at the evolution of the exhibition over the years. So how do you make sure that the exhibition features something new and some improvements, so with the technological advancements in the world?
Of course, that's a great question. So we would not be a relevant exhibition if we did not keep up with the times, and we are correctly in pointing that out. So what we have done to ensure that we keep up with the times is that within the exhibition itself, we've developed what we refer to as hubs. So we have a drone hub where all the UAV or drone related technology can be displayed. All the UAV or drone related technology can also be on display for everyone who is interested. We have also established a general aviation hub, because there is quite a number of new technologies on the general aviation space that have come to the fore. So we need to make sure that AAD continuously displays and attracts people that are making those technologies and those solutions. So I think those are some of the improvements that we've made over the years to ensure that the show remains relevant and we keep up with the technology. This year we are also going to be including the artificial intelligence and robotics hub to make sure that all those are also on display for our various visitors that are going to be coming through.
I think that is very interesting element. Me and you will agree that arranging this kind of an event needs muscle power. It needs some muscles. So I understand the event has been organized in partnership with some organizations. So maybe can you briefly just tell us who are the partners in this exhibition or in this event? What are the roles of each player? How significant is their involvement in the project?
All right, so the show is organized by 4 primary partners. AMSCO, which is a state-owned entity, being the lead partner for this year. There are also 2 industry associations that are involved in organizing AAD. I am responsible for one industry association, which is the Aerospace Maritime and Defence Industry Association. The third one is the Commercial Aviation Association of South Africa, which is CASA. So those are the 3 primary partners. But of course, because we stage this event in a government facility, there is then a Department of Defence, which is the 4th partner. So the Department of Defence role is to make the venue available for us. So through the Waterkloof Air Force Base, that's where we hold the show, the Department of Defence makes that venue available for us. And the other 3 partners then take up the role of being a lead organizer in an alternative way. So this year, as I've said, it is AMSCO that is the lead partner. In the previous year, it was the association that I'm leading.
Okay, so I understand you anticipate a number of visitors, whether from South Africa, or anywhere in the world. Overall, in terms of those that will just be visiting, those that will be buying tickets, what number are we looking at overall?
So in 2022, we had just over 30,000 trade visitors over the 3 days. And we had about 45,000 open day visitors over the 2 days. So in 2022, as you can recall, we were just coming out of COVID.
Yes.
So it was a recovery show. We are expecting this year that the number is going to be bigger than the 30,000 that we had in 2022. So we are expecting about 45 to 50,000 trade visitors over the 3 days. And in as far as the open days, which is the air show days, the maximum capacity that the base can accept is about 30,000 visitors on a daily basis. So we are expecting about 60,000 for the open days, which is the air show days.
I want us to look at the economic injection, particularly in the country, in the Gauteng province as the host province, and maybe also the city of Tshwane coming from this show.
Yeah, of course, Tshwane becomes the primary beneficiary because everything happens around Tshwane. So there's quite a huge benefit that the city receives, but also the country from a tourist perspective, because once the visitors are done with the show, they then normally travel to the Kruger National Park or to Cape Town. So this then becomes quite a national event. And as you would understand, of the 30,000 trade visitors that we had in 2022, about 90% of them were from outside South Africa. So there is quite a huge foreign interest and investment that is done by AAD, mostly in Tshwane, because they then book and they stay here in Tshwane. The people that AAD employs over the 5 days are mostly Tshwane residents, and the spend that the city gets, I think when we calculated for 2022, it was just over 300 million rands. And as I said, it was our recovery show. So we are hoping that for 2024, we can double that number.
Ntate Ndlovu, maybe if there's something that you also need to add.
So I think lastly, as I said, AAD is for South Africans. And lastly, I think I would just like to invite all South Africans who can come through on the open days and come and witness the air show. But those that have an interest in technology can also come in through the trade days. They just have to register through the AAD portal so that they can get accreditation, and then they'll be able to attend the trade visits on the 3 days and the air show on the open days.
You just touched on, I know I said it was my last question, but you just touched on the trade days. So I think it will also be interesting for the viewers and the listeners out there to know if they need to pay for them to participate on the trade days, or they just need to register and not pay.
The participation on trade days is free of charge. They do not need to pay anything. The only payments are done for the airshow days. So on the trade days, all that you do is you go into an AAD website and you register your credentials there so that we can create the necessary profile for you. And on the day you just come in, you print your badge and you come in.
And the kind of participants that are required for the trade days?
It can be anyone. It can be anyone. Of course, we would prefer that it's people who have an interest in the exhibition itself, who either work in the space or who are studying towards that space. But the trade day registration is not restricted. I think the only restriction would be once we reach the limit in terms of numbers. But anyone can attend the trade day.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother.
We appreciate it.
Bonga.